Hello developers, so this episode, the episode 5, so we are going to talk about state, props and functional component. Than that we are going to talk about, discuss about hooks as well. So without further ado, let's begin into the business. Functional components are functions that returns JXX, and of course it is much more simpler than class components. Let me explain you functional component and class component and what is the differences between those. Alright, in React Native general, you can create components in two different ways, like functional component or using class component. In class components, what is the difference between these is just inherit extends with the React component, and of course it returns the JXX after all. And the same time it uses the this.setState method to set the state in the component, but in functional component you define the useState hook to maintain the state. And of course in the class component, what you are seeing here, it actually have a different lifecycle methods for handle all these lifecycle events or the lifecycle stages of the component. But in class component, that is totally different. Actually, it have given much more simplicity and flexibility to the component. So the main reason is moved from class components to functional components is there was a lot of side effects you need to handle in the component. So it is much more easier and flexible and scalable when you are using a class component, not like class components. You can easily implement that in functional components. The early days of React Native, even we actually used class components, but right now with the new React, it actually moved to class components, so it's much more easier. And let's look at that as well. So if you see this particular diagram, you will see it's actually extend the React component, and it have a constructor and this state to implement the states, and it manages its own state. Yep, that's about class component. Let's move on to functional components. Alright, functional components are basically a plain JavaScript function, of course. So early days, we call this actually stateless components. That's because they didn't have a ability of maintaining a state on itself. But later on, with the newer versions of the React Native, actually it came up with the React hooks for implement and maintain their states. So now you can see this particular function it's a plain JavaScript function. It actually has a useState method, useState hook actually. So that actually gives you the ability to manage the state inside your component. And of course there are another hook called useEffect. So it's also it actually helps you to maintain the side effects in your component. Yeah, that's about functional components. Let's dive in deep. Alright, which one is recommended? Yes, of course, definitely the functional components are together with the hooks are the highly recommended way of doing it. But of course you will be encounters class components also in all the code bases in your day-to-day project developments. But of course right now the standard and the recommendation is class component with hooks. So what's the reason behind? If you saw some of the reasons, it's simpler and more concise. So it's less boilerplate code. It doesn't use that boilerplate code as we used previously with class component. Several other methods were there, and easier to understand. Of course, it's very logical and easy to understand and better reusability. That's because of the hooks. Actually, it enables you to take your logic from one component to another. Using hooks, you don't need to copy and paste or same logic in several other components. So improve performances. The React Native team actually they have improved a lot of performance to use these functional components, and of course it's aligned modern React and of course it is aligned with the modern React. The React team actively encourages and develops few new features around the hooks, so it's much more easier to go with that particular technology as well. So all in all, the functional components with hooks is the recommended way, and that is the new way of doing React Native components. So go study more and practice more and have some hands-on experience on that as well. So I'll be also giving you some examples. Let's jump into that as well. Alright, hooks. So let me enlighten you what is hooks about, that I was talking about a couple of minutes before as well. We had problems in side effects with class components. That's because it actually really difficult to manage the side effects in the class components before. That's because so much of boilerplate codes were there, like component did mount, component update. There are so many class component methods where you can use to manage the state. So for example, when component re-render, like you want to fetch some data from the API and then display, and of course when the component unmount, actually you have to like unmount, you have to do certain thing when component unmount, and or else like when component first load, you need to like fetch the API, and when the component updates, you need to refetch the API. So those were like, the logic was scattered everywhere inside life cycle methods in the class component. So that is actually one problem there, and it is really difficult and confusing, and lack of reusability were there, and it's really hard to understand. So because of those kind of problems, they came up with the implementation called functional components with hooks. It actually gives you the useEffect methods, useEffect hook, and also useState hook that actually gives you very easily manage your state inside your component. So that actually made your life really easy. So those are the hooks, and that's why actually hooks are there. It actually made more flexible to use components and manage their side effects inside of the component. All right, first and foremost, the one of the main hooks that we can talk first is, all right, let's talk about the useState hook. All right, what is state? Basically, the state is actually, that is the memory or the local storage, you can call it like that as well, but it's the memory where you manage your state inside your component. So managing component state is in a functional component. For that, to make it easy, the useState hook is there. You can define a state, and you can manage it or set or unset. You can set it to a different value and manage that particular state. So we can I can simply demo it in our code base. Alright, let me code something, and let's make a small state. So AI was really helpful for me. So it's actually created the state. It has been knowing that I'm going to do making a state right now. So I'll just create this particular state. You can import this particular useState hook from React. So it's there now. So I'm creating a count state, simply a memory variable or something you can call it, but it's a state is a memory of the component. Set count. Okay, so we have a location and we have this function, and what you can do is, like, maybe we can show it first initially. All right, this shouldn't be a boolean. Let's make it a string value of something. You can add any value there, so I'm adding it 0. all right, so then I'm adding a text component here to display this particular function. And you have to import this, you have to import this from React or React Native. And let me like add a button component as well here. Alright, it is like more, let me like take it, bring it down here, like style. Now you can use the yes, justify center and align item center. So it will be coming into the center. So right now, like, it gives me a button as well, so I'll add this button as well here. Alright, so your button also, like, you can import from React Native. Alright, so now you have a button and text place where you can see the count value. Alright, it's change it to 0. And let's, alright, now if you see this particular set value function in useState, it's actually incrementing the value. It actually count +1. It actually set the value here and it increments it. So it's a memory. So that's how you use memory or a component memory to implement some feature or something. So that is a hook. Is any hook. When you create a custom hook, or even you have to use the word called use in front of it as the hook's name. So then only React knows, like this function, whatever the function that you created, or the custom hook is a hook, it's not just a function. All right, so it's actually, this is the function and this is the function and this is this, that its state it manages, so it will update there. So let me try it and see. Look, all right, it says concatenate that because it's a string, so if you like add it as a number, it should increment it. Look at it. So that's the state. All right, so you have the function, you have the declaration of the state, and you have the function here, and you have the state. So you update the state each time when you click this button. It actually re-renders this particular component. All right, why hooks are there? All right, before, like if you want to like maintain a state, or if you want to do something specific time in a timeline, or other specific time in the render specific time of the component render, so you had to use state components or the class components when hooks introduced. So you can easily implement those features, like all the features that class component has, using functional component much more easier way, much more robust way, much more flexible way, using React hooks, using functional component. So it's actually essentially bridge the gap between allowing functional components to be just as capable as class components, but often with cleaner and much more modern syntax. So it actually gives you much more flexibility, much more power into your component using React hooks. All right, I think you need a little bit more explanation on how state works and what it is. So basically, useState is special function, a hook that lets you add state to your functional component. So the state, basically what it means is a piece of memory in your component. It actually updates whenever you want, when the value is updated. So you need the previous value, and if it is updated, it should automatically update in your components. For that purpose, we have a hook called useState hook, where it actually set an initial value into it, and it has a setter function, and which actually allows you to update that particular value. And when you update that, is the component automatically updates its component and render the new value. So that's how state works, and that is how state's supposed to work. Alright, now you know like useState hook, and there are certain things that you need to remember when you are using React Native hooks, especially the useState hook. So it's when you call hooks only the top level of the function component, so you should not call the useState inside loops or conditions or nested functions, and you should not call useState from regular JavaScript function. That's because it should reside inside of a React functional component. And why it is so important? That's because the relies on the order of the hooks calls being calls consistent across the render to correctly associate with state your component. So breaking this rule can lead to unpredictable behaviors and bugs. So that is so important to you practice or follow these rules to have a good state management inside your components. And of course, the second one is the updates are asynchronous, so you can't expect right away change. Of course, it happens right away. It's not like split seconds, but it takes little time. So that's why it's called as asynchronous. So that is the state updates are asynchronous. So only the calls hooks from React Native function components or custom hooks. You shouldn't call useState hook inside any other places. It should be inside of a functional component or inside of a custom hook. Those are the key things that you need to remember when you are using useState hook. So you will see this in this small diagrams as well, over here and here. Follow this and you will understand much more deeper there those. Alright, what are side effects? Like I've been talking about previous screens before. So side effects are the things that happens outside the normal flow of rendering your component UI. So it's that why it is size, that's because like other than the rendering the component, the JXX, so this happens asynchronously, sidely, like for example fetching data, setting up subscriptions, or manually changing DOM in native view of hierarchy, or setting up timers, or interacting with device APIs. So it actually needs little time, so those happens asynchronously, apart from the main flow of the rendering component. So why do we care about them? That's because the side effects often involves asynchronous operations or resources that need to be cleaned up, like timers or subscriptions or events. If not handled correctly, they can lead to bugs and memory leaks and performance issues. So that is so important. In React, so we have useEffect hook. Remember, I'm repeating, it's useEffect hook that actually helps you to implement or handle all these side effects really generously and really easy way. So hook is specifically designed to manage side effects in functional components. It actually provides the way to run your code after every render or only when the certain dependencies changes, and allows you to clean up the logic or render that particular function. So when you use the useEffect hook, actually it actually helps you to manage the side effects, and the same time you can render your component manually whenever one of this prop or one of the state is changes. You can set the component to re-render, so you can manage the life cycle very easily. So I'll do a small example of how you can use the useEffect hook next. All right, so let me show you like how the useEffect hook works, and little bit briefing of to make you much more easy to understand how we can use that. So how you can use it, basically you can import useEffect hook from React hooks, React useEffect, and you can implement useEffect function inside the component. You can call like useEffect, and it actually it's actually require a function and the parameter of dependencies, and function, it needs a function and the dependencies. All right, now I'm running Chrome debugger tool right here, so you to show the console logs. All right, I have added a couple of so as you can see here, like you can import useEffect hook from React, and same time like you can use the useEffect hook from React, and you here like I have added the function. So the useEffect hook, it needs a function and a dependency. So I have like a breakdown to several useEffect functions. That's because so easy of teach you. So this particular function actually it runs every time when it is re-rendered, and if you like have something like empty array, something like this, so it's actually only runs for the first time. And if you have a dependency here, but whenever it updates, it runs this particular function, and this particular thing will run only when it is unmounts, or when it is try to re-render. It actually cleans up the previous render thing. So like if you want to do something before the next re-render, you can do it something like here, like unsubscribing, or like cleaning timeouts and cleaning events or something. You can do it something here. So let's run it and see how we got the links, how we got the console logs. I'll re-render the component. Alright, for the first time actually it only on component mounts, so that means this particular one ran, and this one also ran. That's because it actually ran for the first time. So when you click it, you see the cleanup function triggered, and it renders the count 1. So that's mean this function, that's because it's using these dependencies, but it didn't run this one. That's because it's only run for the first time. That's because we have given an empty array here as a dependency. So that's how it works. So if you run another time, you will see it only runs component unmounts, that means the this particular function. So it's actually runs every re-render to clean up the whatever you did before, or if you want to do something that like that. And the other one is dependency based one, so it's actually run whenever the dependency changes. So it's changing, that's because we are updating the state here. We are setting the state one by one, this button click. So it's update the state. Because of it updates in the state, since it is a dependency of this particular useEffect hook, it actually runs here. So similarly, you can run different logics inside your functional component. This is not a class components. So you can use different logics inside your functional component using useEffects to handle the side effects of your component rendering and make it much more easier and much more flexible way of handling the side effects according to your function behaviors. So that's how the prop states and the hooks and how functional components and class component works. I think you will get something really new, and you understand what it is. And if you still have not subscribed, and if you still enjoying this my channel, please make sure to subscribe and give a little help for our channel. And yes, I'll come up with another good tutorial on hands-on experience with episode 6. And stay tuned, and cheers guys.